Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Meet the Candidates night for Penfield Central School District. I'm District Clerk Kathleen Zastro, and on behalf of the district, I'm happy to announce that we have 3 candidates running for 2 open seats on the Board of Education. I'd like to thank all of the candidates for being here so the community can hear their views. Special thanks to Dave and Brian at PCTV. Thanks also to Amy Thomas, Executive Director of Monroe County School Boards Association, who's serving as moderator this evening. I'll turn it over to Amy and we can begin.
Good evening. My name is Amy Thomas, and I'm the Executive Director of Monroe County School Boards Association. I'll be your moderator this evening. This year, the annual Penfield Central School District budget vote and school board election will be held on Tuesday, May 16th from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Penfield High School West Gym, 25 High School Drive. This year, as Kathleen said, we have 3 candidates that are running for 2 seats. Our candidates in ballot order are Krista Can, Aaliyah Elamine Turner, and Dana Marr. Serving as a member of the Board of Education is both an honor and a responsibility. This community entrusts its school board with very important duties. Board members must provide for the education of the community's children. They must see that the property and finances of the district are properly managed, and they must ensure that the many laws governing education are followed. The community elects their school board members, their local officials who serve without pay and give hundreds of hours to their duties. So for that, I thank each one of you for your willingness to potentially serve your community in this elected role. Each candidate will give an opening statement of up to 2 minutes in ballot order. So Krista will start us off tonight, followed by Aaliyah and Dana. After that, I will ask questions that each candidate will take a turn to answer first. Answers should not exceed 2 minutes. When there are 30 seconds remaining in the candidate's allotted time, a yellow card will be shown to the candidate. When time is up, a red card will be shown. After the question and answer portion of the presentation, candidates will be able to make a closing statement of not more than 2 minutes. Those summations will be made in reverse order from the opening statements. So let's get on with it. We're going to start with our opening statements. So Krista, you go first.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Amy Thomas and Kathleen Zastro, for showing up and taking care of us. Good evening to my fellow candidates, Aaliyah and Dana. My name is Krista Can, and I am here to ask you, I would like to ask for your support for re-election on the board. I have been on the board for the last year, and it has been a very interesting and wonderful and diverse experience. I'm learning a lot, and I would like to learn more. So there's so many parts to public education, from education law to education finance to curriculum to mandates to laws. Like, there is so much to public education, and I'm really looking forward to continuing my journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. We'll move along to Aaliyah, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Aaliyah Elamine Turner. I was raised in Penfield. I started in Penfield, moving here with my family, and attended Penfield schools, starting in elementary and graduating from Penfield High School. Approximately 8 years, my husband and I moved back to Penfield to raise our children, and also ensure that they got a Penfield education. I'm here tonight because I understand the value of a Penfield education and understand the greatness that comes out of the Penfield School District. However, I also understand that there's still work to be done, and I understand that we need to be able to continue to grow and progress as a community. And so I'm here to ask that you support me and vote for me and elect me to be a board member because I think that there's still a lot of work to be done to help us continue to advance and be the community that we all envision and imagine Penfield being. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaliyah. And Dana?
Good evening. Thank you, Kathleen and Amy, and to the community as well for tuning in this evening. My name is Dana Marr. Many of you may remember me running for school board last year, and I am again running, working diligently to earn a seat on the Board of Education. My platform starts on the basis of putting kids first. The areas I am placing my focus on are first and foremost are to improve district communication to parents, raising academic outcomes, empowering teachers in their teaching role, enhancing social and emotional supports for kids, and prioritizing spending at classroom level. I am a parent and a community member who is invested in the future of students in our district. I have taken time over the past year to pursue opportunities to expand my knowledge through various trainings. Just a couple examples include my attendance at the New York State School Boards Association pre-conference on school law and my completion of DASA Dignity for All Students Act certification through the University of Buffalo, which focuses heavily on the awareness and prevention of bullying and the related concerns around that. I also have a wealth of leadership experience, having previously worked in a director role over a large program that required not only oversight of the program and employees, but also oversight of financial resources and how they were managed for the program. As part of the oversight, I was responsible for grant programming and the oversight and management of grant funding, which required grant reporting. I will bring positive and creative solutions to support students, educators, and families within the Penfield District. I look forward to the potential of serving on the Penfield School Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. So we're going to move on. It's time for the question and answer portion of the evening. A reminder that answers should not exceed 2 minutes. When there are 30 seconds remaining in the candidate's allotted time, a yellow card will be shown to you. When the time's up, a red card will be shown. Each candidate will have the opportunity to answer questions first on a rotating basis, and feel free to have any of the questions repeated. So we'll begin in ballot order again. So Krista, the first question is, please explain what motivated you to run for the Penfield School Board and the perspective that you bring to the board table.
Okay. That's a great question. I was motivated to run for the Penfield School Board by my older children and the advocacy that they were repeatedly doing in their school. And the speed bumps or the cliffs that they were up against, and seeing them, just keep pushing through, and they wouldn't give up, and knowing their resources, who to reach out to and who not to reach out to. So they definitely motivated me and inspired me to do my own advocacy. And also, I'm very proud of the direction in which Penfield is moving. And opening up our diversity, being more inclusive, welcoming students of all backgrounds, of all abilities, and ensuring that they have what they need in order to thrive and to do well. And like I said, there's so many pieces to it, and it's a lot to go through and understand. And as much as I would like the changes to happen yesterday, they can't, which is unfortunate. However, over the last year, I've seen the district and the superintendent, the assistant superintendents, and I see how they work together and that they're really trying to keep supporting our students. And I think they're doing a great job. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Krista. Aaliyah, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Please explain what motivated you to run for the Penfield School Board and the perspective that you would bring to the board table.
So what motivated me to run, it's a mixture of a few things. One, I think the number one factor is also my children, and moving back to Penfield and seeing that while there are areas that Penfield progressed in, there were some areas that they still had not progressed. And my kids were having the same challenges that I was having as a student in Penfield, 5, 6, or maybe 20 years ago. And wanting, and also talking to other parents in the community. I think that this is an amazing district, and it was disheartening when parents and families felt like they lived in a district that did not serve their children educationally, and they'd have to find other means of education for them when we have this great school district. And so for me, my motivation is Penfield. I know that they've been doing a lot of work with trying to make things inclusive, and really wanting to make sure that there's an accountability for that piece, and making sure that the curriculum is inclusive and culturally responsive and incorporates everyone's diverse perspective, because I think that that's possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaliyah. Dana?
All right. My oldest daughter was in the district at a really tough time when there were a number of student losses. And so we saw the impact of that on not only our daughter, but on many of the students around her. And it was a very tough time. I saw some things that the school was doing to try to support, but I also saw a lot of opportunities to, where we could do more to support students who are struggling. I think that it's such a challenge, especially now. Since then, we've had the pandemic, and we've just seen those challenges for students grow even more so. And I think to academic needs and some of the gaps, as every student has a unique need, and how do we best support each and every student with what those needs may be. With some of my experience with my work, I just feel compelled that, if I can be part of the solution to supporting students in creative ways and supporting the district and being able to identify solutions and work together, I think that is extremely important and valuable. And there's so much opportunity for these students, and really looking at every student. I think about trauma-informed, and just really being aware that every student may come from a different place, a different situation, and how can we meet each and every student's needs. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dana. For the next question, we're going to begin with Aaliyah.
Okay.
The question is, do you support the district's proposed budget? If so, why? If not, what changes would you make?
So I was reviewing the recent budget meeting, and I do support the proposed budget for the district. We have to be able to progress, and we have to be able to make sure that our students are prepared to be able to be prepared for the 21st century and be able to stay with the times, and that costs money. And I think that a lot of times when people see the costs go up, it scares them, and rightfully so. But I think that in order for us to continue to progress and continue to provide our students with the tools that they need, also be able to support our staff, that we have to be willing to have a budget that allows for that.
Thank you, Aaliyah. And next up is Dana.
All right. Can you repeat the question for me?
Sure.
Thank you.
Do you support the district's proposed budget? If so, why? If not, what changes would you make?
So I've been really trying to look closely at the proposed budget, and there's a lot of pieces to it. We have the foundation aid funding, which is a piece. That's a really big piece, where we have funding coming from the state, and just looking at how is that being utilized and making sure that's being used in the best possible way. I know one of the ways that is being supported is to support smaller classroom sizes, and what does that look like, and making sure that the resources that are needed within the district are provided, making sure that we're using those resources wisely. So I think it's just really looking at each and every piece of that and making sure that while we absolutely need to have a budget in place to support the academics and support the teachers and the staff and students, but really looking at the pieces within to make sure that those are working in the best way possible. So, I support having a effective budget, but I also think it's important to look carefully at those pieces within and make sure that those all make sense and are used in the most effective way to go to supporting our students first and foremost. So
Thank you, Dana. Krista?
Amy, could you repeat the question?
I
for me,
sure
please?
can.
Thank you.
Do you support the district's proposed budget? And if so, why? If not, what changes would you make?
From what I have seen, I do support the budget. It has been created by our very amazing Assistant Superintendent of Finance and his team. And over the last year, I've seen how meticulous he is with his numbers. And I really appreciate that. And everything is accounted for. Everything is explained. And there is no question that our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Driffel, cannot answer. He has an answer for everything, and they all make sense. What I really appreciate about the budget is we know exactly where our money is coming from, what money comes from our taxpayers, what money comes from federal money, state money, and grants. Everything is accounted for. Also, it is explained how the money is used, what we can use the money for. And I'm really impressed with the various resources that are supported for our children and our staff. And just today, I was touring an elementary school and the middle school, and with George English, Mr. George English, who is our grounds and building extraordinaire, and going through, money is not spent, it's spent very wisely and creatively. Mr. English was showing us, okay, this needs to be replaced in the buildings, the countertops, the sinks, the kids need better bathroom facilities, the lighting. So again, it is very well explained. It's very meticulous. And right now, I can't find any problems. Thank you.
Thanks, Krista. For the next question, we'll begin with Dana. Dana, what do you view as the most important quality for a school board member to have?
I believe the most important quality for a school board leader to have is solid leadership and integrity, I think. And I think the two go together, so kind of one and the same. Part of being a solid leader and having solid leadership skills is doing the right thing, and being okay with speaking up and saying something if you need to say something, asking the questions, asking those challenging questions, and engaging in that important dialogue. And just being comfortable to do that, but also listening. And part of being a good leader is not just being able to lead, but also to follow and to really work together in that dialogue, to listen and to share and to engage in that good, crucial conversation to discuss solutions and problems and come up with ways to best support the team, and really doing research and taking the time to look at things thoroughly, and just it involves hard work. So thank you.
Thanks, Dana. Krista, you're up next.
Okay. I don't think there's just one quality for an effective board member. I believe that a board member of a public school district should be a big advocate for public school, for public education, and all that it has to offer. Also, being an active listener, listening to community members, listening to fellow board members, and listening to staff, and making yourself accessible, all right, through the specific channels, and taking the time to really understand what public education is and the pieces that need to work well on their own, and those pieces need to come together and work well together, and giving everyone the support that they need, right? Our teachers, our students. This is a great community, and we're doing okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Krista. Aaliyah.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. What do you view as the most important quality for a school member to have?
I think that the most important quality is empathy. I think that a lot of times when we are placed in situations where if that situation doesn't impact me, then sometimes I don't really understand. But I think that if you are put in a leadership role and you have empathy, then that allows you to understand why a teacher may feel a way. That allows you to understand why a student may feel a way. That allows you to understand why a parent may feel a way, and be able to maybe meet them where they're at. And a lot of times, if it doesn't impact me, then that's not my problem. But that's not how a community works. And that's not how you grow and you build as a community. Because if my child is okay, but another child is hurting, then there's something wrong. If teachers are okay, but another teacher is unsatisfied, then there's something wrong. And I think we, as a community, sometimes if we're okay in our space, then then we don't really stop to think about maybe someone else may not be okay. And so I think as a board member, empathy is something that is extremely important.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll begin with Krista. What is your definition of academic excellence?
My definition of academic excellence. It's not just the report card. It's not just the transcript. I look at the whole student. Okay? Yes. How are they doing in school academically? And also, we know that children, students thrive academically if they have their other needs met. Are they sleeping well? Are they getting enough nutrition? Are they being loved? Do they feel safe? Are they seen? Are they welcomed? So looking at the whole student, I feel that that's the definition of academic excellence. Yeah, is the whole student being taken care of. Yeah.
Okay. Aaliyah.
Just repeat the question, make sure I have it.
What is your definition
Okay.
of academic excellence?
Didn't want to jump the gun. So my definition of academic excellence is students being prepared to excel outside of Penfield, being able to be great outside of the suburb of Penfield, New York. Regardless whether they go on to post-secondary, whether they go on to trade, whether they go into the military, whether they go on to work right after, but being prepared, well-rounded with the academics, but also the social emotional component as well. And that includes having a curriculum that's inclusive and culturally responsive, and making sure that students leave feeling that they are prepared for excellence outside of the Penfield School District.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Dana?
All right. If you could repeat the question.
Sure.
Thank you.
What is your definition of academic excellence?
My definition would be that students have the opportunity to truly learn and develop the skills and be equipped to be successful as they go through their education, and upon completion of their education to be able to succeed, and whatever that may be in terms of where they go in their career or in their schooling, but that they're able to build those building blocks, that they have the resources to develop those skills, to learn, and to be able to excel. I'm actually looking forward to a committee I was accepted to be on with New York State Department of Education on their Parent Advisory Committee for graduation measures, and where they're going to be talking a lot about kind of what those goals are that they're looking for achievements for graduates, upon graduation. And I really think it's just equipping these students to make sure that they can really do the best that they can do. And every student has different learning needs, so making sure that they have the resources and making sure that they are able to learn to their best ability, and be able to do that and thrive and take those skills out elsewhere upon their finishing school. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. The next question will begin with Aaliyah. Aaliyah, what is your understanding of equitable grading? What impact does equitable grading have on students with disabilities?
I think that my understanding is meeting the students where they're at in regards to their grading, and I think that it has an impact in terms of it's taking away from the standardized testing grading and making sure that we're meeting students where they are educationally.
Okay. Dana,
Could you repeat the question?
what is your understanding of equitable grading? What impact does equitable grading have on students with disabilities?
So I think there's been a lot of work that's been done where they've talked quite a bit about equitable grading and some of the changes happening here in the district. And I think one of the things that they've been looking at is how can we make sure it makes sense for every student. I think of equitable grading, I know currently they're doing a lot in terms of adjusting, maybe the amount of time a student needs to complete an assignment, or, maybe the grade starts at a higher level. And I really think it's important that we also make sure that we're bringing up those supports, because while we can, adapt, those scores, which I think, can help students in terms of the buying them some time to catch up. I also think that we have to make sure that we have those supports in place. And with special needs especially, I think that there is a great need. There's a lot of kids where there are gaps and a lot of learning needs. And so it's extremely important that we are, if a child needs that extra support to learn on a specific topic, or they need some additional learning resources to be successful, that we're providing that, and really individualizing that education for each and every student, because we want to make sure that students have the skills that they're equipped when they get out of school, to be able to have those skills. Otherwise, they may leave without those necessary resources upon completion of their education. So we want to make sure they have those resources and that education. So thank you.
Thanks, Dana. Krista?
I know that the district has been doing a lot of work around equitable grading. Still trying to get, nothing has been set in stone as yet. Still reaching out to community members, all stakeholders, trying to get their input about what's going on and how they feel about it. I understand that this type of grading meets students where they're at. Every student learns differently. And I feel that this helps with our students feel more successful, feel that they're thriving and they're working, they're putting the work in and they're being seen, which is really important. They're not defined by a grade. And I remember when I was a student, I defined myself by my grades, and it was really, I struggled when I did not do well, okay? Having an opportunity to redo a test or redo a quiz is amazing. I think it really encourages our students to oh, okay, I'm not gonna give up. I have another chance. I can do this. Also with the report cards and not just being graded by a number, understanding that, having our parents understand that, okay, they're progressing, they're meeting standards, whatever it is. It's really important, and I think this will be beneficial to our students with disabilities. I really think this will help them feel more successful, and again, and they'll be seen. Yes, as they should be.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Krista. The next question will begin with Dana. What is your position on the current state of academic enrichment programs in the Penfield Central School District?
So I think, again, to the individualization of students, and I think this question has some overlap with the last one in some sense, in that every student has different needs. Some kids need more structure and more challenge in their success, and some kids need more flex and, adapting. And so for some kids, those enrichment programs can be very helpful, but it's my understanding that there's been a lot of changes with those enrichment courses that, that they are not, they're in the same capacity that they have been in the past. And so I think it just really is important to think about each and every student and what makes sense for them. How can we challenge those students who need that challenge to kind of have that drive or be successful, or work with some of their, even, when I think about the social and emotional health and well-being of students, for some kids, that's an important piece of that also, because for them, they may need, may need that enrichment piece to be more successful in terms of the other pieces. I think about ADHD and how the brain functions, and for a student with ADHD, sometimes it's that brain is understimulated and they need more stimulation to really be able to focus and stay engaged. So I think of it in that sense, and it would be great to see students having kind of supports in all spectrums, for whatever their need might be in learning. So thank you.
Okay. Krista?
Can you repeat the question, please, Amy?
Yes. What is your position on the current state of academic enrichment programs in the Penfield Central School District?
I know enrichment takes place or occurs very differently at the elementary and secondary levels and middle school levels. I still have not found out at the elementary level how our children are chosen for enrichment. I also feel a Bay Trail enrichment is for everyone, okay? And enrichment happens differently. If you are part of enrichment in elementary school, I believe you keep doing that at Bay Trail, and also there's other forms of enrichment. There is art enrichment. There is, you can go on a field trip. You see the Women's Museum in Seneca Falls. You can see a performance at a theater. Like, that's wonderful. So enrichment should happen not only academically. It should happen in other various ways. And at the high school, there's so many opportunities at the high school. Anybody could sign up for an AP class. It's up to you if you would like to drop it, take the exam, that kind of situation. They really leave it up to the student, which I fully appreciate. And then there's RTI, which is support for math, I believe. So children are met where they are at, and they're supported in that way. I just believe enrichment is really important, and also we should have different levels of it, different tiers, just so that all of our kids can experience enrichment. Yeah.
Thank you. Aaliyah, same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
What is your position on the current state of academic enrichment programs in the Penfield Central School District?
So I believe that academic enrichment programs are beneficial and they're needed. I think that it's, for me, looking at the pipeline into those programs and making sure that everyone is giving an opportunity to have or be a part of some type of enrichment program at their level, because what we don't want to do is limit options for students in terms of their academic levels and what's available. Because when you limit the opportunities, it also limits the opportunities for students to explore and to be able to look at their passions and their interests. So I think that my stance is that I think it's needed. I just would like to look at how these students enter into these programs are chosen, and making sure that it's done in an equitable way and maybe a non-biased way, and also the pressures that maybe being put in some of these programs can cause on some of the students. But I do think that as a school district, we want to be able to offer our students every opportunity to succeed.
Okay. For the next question, we'll begin with Krista. Krista, communication is important. Do you believe the school district communicates well with the Penfield community, both disseminating information and receiving communication?
Before I became a board member, I felt I did not communicate with the school district because I think it was Aaliyah said, if it ain't broke, why fix it, right? If it's not affecting you, you're not going to seek out help, all right? So I was not very well versed with the website and whatnot. However, as my children have gone through their school careers, and the school district, as the students get older, we tend to do more email communication with teachers, administrators, and it's wonderful. It's really, really wonderful. I think it takes a little while for newer parents to get on board with that. And I believe that once they are on board with how the school communicates, okay, it's smooth. Also, I was never told that I can call and ask a question and I can reach out at any point in time. I think that needs to be shouted at the rooftops. You can reach out to anyone at any point in time, and there is a chain of command that you follow. Sometimes I would just go straight to the top and not get an answer, and I'd get annoyed, but there is a chain of command. Penfield School District has just, this year, Parent Square. We have adopted Parent Square, and I feel that is one of the most amazing communication tools that a school district can have. I get everything from all the schools, all the teachers, and I think we're doing okay with communication. Communication will always be better, right? But I think we're doing okay right now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Aaliyah, same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
Yes.
Communication is important. Do you believe the school district communicates well with the Penfield community, both disseminating information and receiving communication?
So I think that goes back to my earlier comment with the empathy. I can say that I think the Penfield School District communicates well for me, but the reality is that there's parents who think that the Penfield School District does not communicate well with the community. I've even had personal situations earlier this year where I received a letter that was sent home telling me that my child was at risk of being withdrawn from Penfield because of attendance, which was a miscommunication. But if I hadn't had the tools and to understand and to respond to that, I think that could be discouraging and off-putting, and for that to be the only communication when someone perceived that there might have been an issue with my child's attendance, to receive that letter, that's a scary feeling, especially when we're not sure what families are going through. Once, when they're not, while folks are at home, we don't really know. And so I think that while I've noticed that Penfield has been trying to improve their communication, there's work to be done and we can do better.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Dana, same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
Sure, thank you.
Okay. Communication is important. Do you believe the school district communicates well with the Penfield community, both disseminating information and receiving communication?
So with communication, as you say, it's extremely important, and I think there's always opportunity to improve communication no matter where you are, how great it might be. With that said, I do think there is opportunity within the district to improve that communication. I think there's multiple layers of that. So when you have an entity as large as our district here, it's so vital that the players within the district, so teachers, your support staff, your administration teams, all have kind of a communication plan to best communicate out to the community, and kind of know how to respond. Because I think what can happen is if you have some communications going out from one person and then somebody else communicating, sometimes that can get lost in transmission. And it's so important and vital that we have a consistent message when there's important things to be relayed to minimize that confusion, and that there's prompt responses, that information is communicated timely, that questions are answered in a way that you can minimize that confusion. There's always going to be opportunity for breakdown, but that's where I think it's so vital to be aware of that and on top of that. And the tighter the team can communicate with one another on what that communication is going to look like, I think the better that's going to look in terms of the communication with the community. And I think it's extremely important to hear and listen to the community when they're sharing feedback or input, and having those opportunities for dialogue. We certainly have the board meetings where people can attend, but are there other opportunities, other ways that we can, get input from the community, whether it be a survey? And I know some have been done, but really taking a look at those key issues where that may be helpful to developing some solutions, because our community, members, they know their kids and can best support those needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. For the next question, we'll begin with Aaliyah. Aaliyah, what is one thing you believe Penfield does well that you would like to see continued? And what's one thing that you believe Penfield could improve upon? And how would you work with the board to achieve that?
So, one thing that I think Penfield does well is, I think they're teachers, they're academic, and for me, when my husband and I realized that our one of our daughters was having issues academic, we were like, we need to go back to Penfield, because I know that the caliber just of the teachers and the staff, I think is amazing. Even like I said, even though it was 5 or maybe 20 years since I had been a student in Penfield, I still believed in the quality of educators that Penfield has, and I think they do an amazing job. Area that I think that we can improve on is we say we're wanting to be inclusive, and I think it's great. That's where you start, but now we need to put that into practice and make sure that we're not only saying it, but we are modeling it, we're doing it, and be a place that other districts can look at as a model and saying, and making sure that all students are feeling that they're heard. One of the things that in doing and deciding to run, I talked to my own children, one that graduated last year, one that's still currently in the district, they're friends. And the theme that kept coming back is feeling heard. A lot of times the students don't feel heard, and sometimes we don't have to have all the answers, and sometimes things still have to go in the direction that we may not want it to go in terms of changes happening or things that students may want. But I think we can still validate and make them feel heard.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Dana, same question. Would you like that repeated?
Yes, please.
Okay. What is one thing you think Penfield does well that you would like to see continued? And what is one thing that you believe Penfield could improve upon? And how would you work with the board to achieve that?
So I guess I'll start with sharing that we've had some very positive experiences at the elementary level. There were some systems in place, and just the way, if there was a concern with a teacher or something that came up, working through that went very, very well. And we were able to come up with solutions and support our kids through that process, and had a lot of success. So I would want to see whatever is working within that system. And I think some may just have to do with the size within the elementary schools compared to when you start moving into the middle school and the high school. But what in that process might we be able to take and apply to some of the larger buildings to have that same success rate when there are things that might come up. And I guess in terms of improvement, that would be my improvement is how can we improve that piece in the middle school and the high school where you have a larger number of students and teachers to be able to support when there are things that come up or challenges, to be able to work through those issues and those solutions and have the same success. And I think there certainly are situations where there are successes, but I do think that there's also more challenges that are faced in those buildings, just simply because the challenges are different. You've got kids that are a little bit older, you've got different dynamics, you've got a different size of a building, and the way the classrooms are structured is very different as well. So, but trying to problem solve through that and see how can we bring that same level of communication and success to those buildings as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Krista?
Can you repeat that question for
I
me?
certainly can.
Thank you.
What is one thing you believe Penfield does well that you would like to see continue? And what is one thing that you believe Penfield could improve upon? And how would you work with the board to achieve that?
One thing that I've been seeing recently that Penfield is doing well is supporting social emotional learning in all of our schools. Making sure hiring staff, counselors, social workers, making sure there's staff in the building to support our children with their social emotional needs, having safe spaces for our children where if they need to take a break during the day, they can go to these spaces, meet with these folks, and know that they can have a conversation. If it is they need a movement break, because some of our students need to get the wiggles out, so to speak. I would like to see more of that in our schools, creating spaces for our children in order to have a place where they can just show up and be themselves and be able to go back to their regular day and thrive and get their work done. One thing we can improve upon, honestly, I would like to see some more diversity in sports. I really, really would. Don't get me wrong, Penfield has a really strong athletic program. I fully appreciate it. Mary Beth Walker is amazing in all that she does. However, I would like to see our students, I would like to hear them talk about how they feel more successful in their physical activity. So if you're not an organized sports person, maybe there's fencing. Maybe there is, pickleball or something else for our children to do. Yeah.
Thank you, Krista. This will be our final question, and we'll begin with Dana. Do you support changing school start times? And if so, how will you work with the Board of Education and the district to get those implemented?
So I think changing school start times is something that first would be extremely important to look at. The why. What are the reasons for doing so? And does it make sense for the students and for parents? And I think that that could be challenging. And so I guess I would want to understand the why. And if it was something where it made sense, where there was a really good reason to start sooner, then I would of course be in support. But again, I think understanding that and the logistics is extremely important. And then in terms of supporting that, I think it's so vital that you get feedback from your community on how that might impact parents. You have work schedules, you have childcare, you have busing and all sorts of dynamics. And we think about, every family has different needs and different situations. And for some, it might be easy to support having their child start at school earlier in the day. And for some, that might be very, very challenging. And so how can we support that? How can we look at that to make sure that we're taking those things into consideration? And I think it also has to be communicated extremely well when it's in process of considering that, and then if a decision is made, and then making sure that that's clear, that the communication is clear, and that it's timely, that parents have plenty of time to be able to plan. In reality, I would think you wouldn't want to probably implement that within the same school year. You would want to give parents enough time to really potentially look at maybe that next school year so that they can plan accordingly around that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Krista,
Could you repeat the question, please?
do you support changing school start times? And if so, how will you work with the Board of Education and the district to get those implemented?
I know there's been a lot of science behind, especially our high school students, that they are more ready for the day later on. Like they're up late at night, they need to sleep in. I live with teenagers, so yes, I understand that. However, that's not really how the world works, unfortunately. So this is not a change that can happen overnight. I believe that you need to have a lot of community input and feedback, and not just, from parents, from students, from staff. We have to look at the logistics of it, transportation, the cost. How is this going to affect our community? And it would be nice in a wonderful world to have our younger ones start earlier and our older ones start later, but I don't know how realistic and feasible it will be. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Aaliyah, same question.
Yes.
Would you like that repeated?
Yes.
Okay. Do you support changing school start times? And if so, how will you work with the Board of Education and the district to get those implemented?
I do support changing the school start time. Research has shown that it's needed for, especially for teens, that they need more sleep. So therefore, I think that we need to look at we've been doing something this way for so long, why change it? Well, we've been doing something this way for so long, maybe we should look at changing it because the needs of our students have changed. One thing that COVID has taught us is that a lot of times we'll say change doesn't happen overnight, but I think COVID has taught us that we can change overnight. Things can change quickly. We were able to get systems, and even though, there was touch and go, but able to adapt really quickly. And I think that if working with the district and working with the community, looking at who this would this improve? Is this for the betterment of the students? How can we support those families that if this change does impact them negatively, but is this, looking at the overall picture, how does this support students and help foster their education and their success? So if the research is showing that they need more sleep, then I think we need to adapt to that so that we can help them become more successful.
Thank you, Aaliyah. So now we've come to the end of our question and answer portion of the program. Each candidate will now be allowed to make a closing statement of not more than 2 minutes. Those summations will be made in reverse order from the opening statements. So Dana, you will have the opportunity to give your closing statement first.
All right. I am invested in supporting the best interest of all students. academics and mental health have become very important discussions as we continue to see the challenges students and educators are facing in these areas. Teachers are facing many challenges, not only in respect to supporting the many needs of students, but also with the ever-changing requirements that are being added to the many already existing responsibilities they hold. That is then only being compounded by teacher shortages, which just continues to add more layers to the complexities of the challenges being encountered. I am familiar with the many challenges of having to creatively make things work with limited staffing resources while also working to offer a supportive environment so that employees may be able to effectively support those whom they are in turn supporting. I plan to address these needs in a manner that is reflective of teachers and support staff being highly valued within their roles, providing dignity, respect, and support to those that hold a very important role in educating the students in the district. With the staffing crisis that is impacting so many, especially in schools, it is vital that we find creative ways to support the many teachers who are investing their time, energy, and passion into educating students and finding ways to ensure that they have the needed tools and resources to be effective and successful in their roles. We need financial resources to be directed so that students' needs are supported first and foremost, and for financial resources to be utilized wisely so we are maximizing how students may benefit from those resources. Putting kids first is my message. We can't do that without making sure that the team supporting them is able to have the tools and resources to do that effectively. I would love to have your vote on May 16th.
Thank you, Dana. Aaliyah?
So it is important that educators and policy makers consistently evaluate and improve the educational system and ensure that it serves all students in a fair and equitable manner. If elected to be a board member, that is my commitment that I will continue to work to make sure that Penfield does not stay stagnant or become stagnant, and continuously work to improve the education system for students, families, staffs, and community members. I think that this is a wonderful community, and I want to make sure that it continues to thrive. And so that's my commitment, if elected as a board member, to continue to work to improve the Penfield School District and work together with the community.
Thank you, Aaliyah. And Krista?
It has been my honor and my privilege to be on the board for the last year. It has been a very steep learning curve, understanding all the parts of public education and what our stakeholders need from us in order for it to work well and to be effective and to ensure that everyone gets what they need. At the end of the day, we are here for our students in public education. Each student is different. Each student has their own needs, and it is our responsibility as a community, as a board, as a district, to ensure that every child who goes through our system does well and feels successful and thrives and can go out there into the world and be an educated, empathetic, graceful human being to make this world a better place. I am looking forward to working in this district for another 3 years, and I look forward to your vote on May 16th. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. So this concludes our presentation for tonight. Thanks to all of you at home for joining us this evening to meet our 3 candidates. As a reminder, the budget vote and school board election is Tuesday, May 16th from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Penfield High School West Gym at 25 High School Drive. Thank you so much and have a great evening.